Welcome to the Pick Vault Podcast. I'm Matt Taylor, the CEO of the Pick Vault, and Dan and I are happy that you've decided to tune in and listen to today's episode. By continuing to listen to the episode, you are accepting the Pick Vault LLC terms of use, terms and conditions, and privacy policy located at www.thepickvault.com. The following podcast is for entertainment purposes only and should not be used for the purpose of in-person or online legal or illegal sports wagering or gambling of any kind. Now, if you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. That's 1-800-GAMBLER. Now sit back, enjoy the episode. Welcome to the Pick Vault. It's time to unlock your money.
Welcome to the Pick Vault. Taking sports gambling to the next level. No more winging it. It's time to get paid. We're a sports gambling consultation firm. We use sports, news, sports data, stats, and analytics. And we help you unlock your money. Get ready to start winning. This is the Pick Vault. And here's Matt Taylor and Danny Siv.
It's the Pick Vault. Gonna sit you down and listen to this real talk. Ain't no first or second option, this the default. Turning picks into these dollars, gonna let them fall. Raining down these daily winnings like an aerosol. Analytics calculated just to win it all. Problems when it comes to choosing, we got all them solved. Got the picks that needin' fixed and you know who to call. Cause this the Pick Vault.
And he is right. That is Jay Alive Official. Go check him out on Apple Music, Spotify, or right here on Instagram. I'm Matt Taylor alongside Danny Siv, and today we have a very special episode. It's not like our usual episodes because today we have a very important guest. And this guest, before we introduce him, he has actually been an NFL agent for over 30 years. He's negotiated contracts for over 200 athletes, equating those contracts over $1 billion negotiated. He is a great sports agent. He's been featured on SiriusXM NFL Radio, NBC Sports Radio, and ESPN Radio, and much more. And finally, he is the host of Pro Mindset Podcast. Pro Mindset Podcast is actually tagged in this episode. Go check them out. It's an unbelievable podcast, and you're going to learn more about it here moving forward. But again, Matt Taylor, Danny Siv, and Craig Domann of Pro Mindset Podcast. Now get ready, because this is a great episode. Tune in. You don't want to miss this. The first 3 minutes of this episode is just audio, but after that we have video, and again, I apologize for that. We had a little bit of technical difficulties in this COVID-19 coronavirus time period, a little bit of technical difficulties, but about that 3-minute mark after this intro, you should be able to see Craig Domann, me, and Danny Siv. So again, sit back, relax, and here's Craig Domann. Craig, welcome to the Pick Vault. We're happy to have you. And before we really hop into a bunch of different subjects that I know some of the Pick Vault members, Pick Vault Nation has reached out and asked us to ask your way. I want to give you a second to talk about Pro Mindset Podcast and your experience. What made you really start that podcast, and what really is Pro Mindset Podcast all about?
Well, everything's got an origination, and Pro Mindset Podcast really starts from answering two questions. Why does the NFL spend so much time, money, and resources on their first round pick? And generally about 2 to 3 years later, 50% of them are busts. Every single draft. And if we go, who's your guys' favorite team?
I'm a Carolina Panthers fan.
I'm a Giants fan, unfortunately.
Okay, so we got the Panthers and Giants. I grew up a Chiefs fan. If you go back to any of those three organizations 5 years, you're going to find a first rounder. You don't remember he got drafted by your team.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay. And at that moment, the organization anointed that guy as the face of the organization, the game changer, whether it was a franchise quarterback, which doesn't happen every year, or it could have been a defensive guy who's going to change the defense. I don't understand it. They go through this vetting process, this evaluation process, the Senior Bowl, the Combine, the Pro Days, the pre-draft visits. Do you not think for a minute these teams believe they are making the right decision?
No, absolutely. And I think one thing that I know we've watched some of your episodes on Pro Mindset Podcast, and one thing that I've noticed that you dive into is really the mindset that it takes and what makes the difference between that first round stud and that first round bust. So I guess, on the same subject, what is your number one differentiating point from the mindset side of things from that bust player versus that guy that we come to know on a regular basis and a household name?
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to mention the other question in the Pro Mindset answers. Why did Philip Lindsay and a lot of these guys, like right now we've got running backs around the league that didn't get drafted that are doing better than the guys that were.
Yeah, Edwards-Helaire right there.
Drafted in a year when we don't have preseason games and ends up going to be the bell cow running back for his team that every fantasy owner is scrambling in week 2, week 3 to pick up. How does that happen? So how Pro Mindset comes in is that in interviewing current, former coaches, players, GMs, media guys, everybody and anybody affiliated with the game, I've reverse engineered what that is, what that mindset is. And when I first got started, there was like 4 or 5 things, and then it went to 7, then it went to 8, and then it started looking like, okay, like this is an evolution. Okay, this is not something where you have one interview and bada boom, this is the magic formula.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay? This is like 50 interviews in, you can go, I've got 7 different silos. I've got 7 different elements that no matter if I interview the next guy and I ask him, what was his mountain peak experience, or how did he get out of the valley, or a guy like Alex Smith, how did he recover from a near amputation, let alone career-ending injury?
Right, life-threatening, really.
Everybody falls into these 7 things. And I feel like the number one thing, the most powerful one, is your belief. And so belief has 2 components. One is your identity. So, like for example, when a new rook comes in the building for the first time, when he shows up on the practice field for the first time, when he gets the ball, if he's a running back for the first time, he emanates who he is. Players cannot perform inconsistent with their identity.
Absolutely.
If they believe they're the dude, they just are the dude.
Right. Stick to your game.
If they don't believe they're the dude, like let's go back to Tony Mandarich a long time ago.
Yep.
But he's arguably the biggest bust. He was a number
Right.
Absolutely.
pick, right? Well, what was Tony's issue? Well, no, we're guessing. But I can tell you is he didn't believe in himself. Everybody else did, but he didn't.
And
his performance was consistent with that.
And that's clearly important, like you said, believing in yourself and having that mindset in order to get yourself. Because especially all these professional athletes, like you said, everyone believes in them, and everyone puts them on a pedestal, especially guys that get drafted so high. We hear their names, we see them all over the place. And sometimes I think one thing that you got to worry about, especially with young guys, maybe 1 year removed from high school, 2 years removed from high school in some of these situations, you got to consider they're young guys that you're putting high expectation on and a lot of resources towards. And I think one thing that's important is to start taking that money and not only putting resources into their body and their performance on the field, but also their mind and their mentality off the field. I think that teams are starting to get into that, especially at the NFL level, are starting to get into having people that are there.
They're supervising, exactly.
To get them in the right zone and help them with the visualizations and really, like you said, believing in yourself in order to get you in that right frame, mind state in order to perform.
Well, Matt, when you were talking, I was thinking, who's in the kitchen right now in the NFL in terms of they're feeling the heat and everybody's starting to doubt whether they can be the guy.
Lamar Jackson.
Let's go to the first guy picked in the 2020 draft. Yep. Joe Burrow himself. And everybody's starting to ask the question, is he going to be like David Carr? If he gets sacked 75 times this year, what's going to happen to him?
Yep. Can you
Is it safe for him to even be out there, even though he slings the ball around and he looks like a stud? Is it really benefiting him long term?
That's a fair question as well. And here's what I can tell just from the way he talks and the way he does his interviews. He's not David Carr.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
He brings a totally different
element.
He's
Yeah.
a proven winner, and that's what I like.
He doesn't look like a rookie.
Especially, one thing I think people need to consider, especially when they're going in these NFL teams and going in and they're looking to draft a player, especially high in the draft, like you're talking about, you got to look at what they did, and their track record as not only a leader, because most of these guys that you're drafting early on are probably leaders of their college team,
hopefully,
or higher up. But also, are they a proven winner? Are they making the people around them elevate to a higher level, or did the people around them underperform? Because sometimes you might have a great player, a great guy, on the field that you can go to, but all of a sudden maybe he doesn't
have the weapons,
bring his teammates to that next level that you might be looking for.
Well, here's the thing about Joe Burrow. Guys that don't believe in themselves would have tripped up on one game during the regular season last year. And let's say they still got to the playoff championship game against Clemson. They would have almost won.
Yeah.
He killed it.
Yeah.
He killed it
there
all
was
the way through.
no doubt in that he was going to win that game.
The reins, he balled out. So what's going to happen in Cincinnati is once they figure out how to get an offensive line in there in the offseason, whether it's through the draft, through free agency, through trades, through position conversions, whatever it's going to be, you're going to see a Joe Burrow next year, I believe, that performs like a number one pick. And he's going to be a difference maker.
All right, on the same subject, because I couldn't agree more with you. I like his moxie and everything he brings, and a guy that he kind of, I don't want to say reminds me of, but it could be on the flip of the spectrum, is a guy like Baker Mayfield. Yes, he gets drafted pretty high.
Different mentalities.
And the Browns are known for making mistakes with their early draft picks. We've seen it, not mistakes, but where the guys don't pan out. Like you said, the difference between a bust and a superstar is so slim, and it comes down to what they're doing, not necessarily on the field. It's more about,
off the
like
field.
You said, believing in yourself and having that frame of mind to get you to be that superstar guy. And I'm talking about Baker Mayfield, and a guy that's in a lot of commercials, has a lot of these expectations on him. But on the same token, on the Joe Burrow kind of same train, he was kind of a proven winner. He all of a sudden was a walk-on and a great story, and he's been in the limelight ever since. So what is your take on a guy like Baker Mayfield, especially in considering what the Browns have put into him and what everyone else is putting into him, whether it's endorsement deals or whatever? But there's obviously an expectation there for greatness, and where do you think... You think he can get there or no? I
don't think so.
Well, here's the thing about Baker Mayfield. He walked out of Texas Tech. He did it there. They didn't show him any respect. So he leaves and goes to OU. He wins the Heisman. I mean, this dude was a Heisman Trophy winner. Josh Allen and Sam Darnold and all these guys, Josh Rosen, were all the guys that were supposed to be the guy. And here Baker Mayfield shows up, and he's the number one pick.
Yeah.
John Dorsey from the Browns at the time picked him number one for a reason. At his pro day, when the contingent of the Browns organization went down to Norman, when Baker Mayfield showed up, he made some sound like he clicked with his lips.
Yeah.
And the whole room clicked back. They knew he owned the freaking room from the jump. So what's going to happen with Baker Mayfield is he doesn't have some of the God-given ability that Josh Allen has.
Yeah.
If Baker Mayfield can figure out what his football identity is, where he stay in his lanes, not try to be more than he can be, he could be a Super Bowl quarterback.
Yeah.
I think where Baker Mayfield can fail, it's not going to be mindset.
Right.
He's got the mindset.
Yeah.
It's going to be his skill set. When his mind thinks his skills are better than they are. I think that's where he treads in dangerous waters.
And I think that point right there actually summarizes, the pro mindset. Exactly like you said, Josh Allen might have be the more talented guy.
But we haven't been able to really see it.
But all of a sudden, a guy like Baker, who may not have, like you said, the God-given ability that other people may have.
Like Darnold definitely has a better arm than him.
Is performing at a higher level, and all of a sudden his team's in a good position this year, really for the first time since he's been there, but in a position to make a little bit of a playoff push later in the season.
Well, they're playing the Colts last Sunday, and Baker gets the snot. He gets the snot knocked out of him, and he gets his shoulder bruised. And a lot of guys would have taken a pass and let QB2 come in, finish the game. They had the Colts beat. He comes back in. This guy, this is his team. Now, if he's not, if he's seriously injured, it's going to show up this week.
Oh,
and he's not
yeah,
gonna
definitely.
perform. He's not going to be able to make the throws. But if it's just a boo-boo and he's going to be okay, Baker Mayfield's the dude.
Do you think that
He's not the most talented dude.
Right. Do you think that, I know when he came into the league, everyone kind of had this charisma about him that he's kind of cocky, and I kind of got that with Joe Burrow too, but would you say that's more of just confidence and believing in themselves? They have to come off as a little cocky, right? To an extent.
Okay, guys, you're the owner, you're the GM. Do you want a quarterback that's not cocky?
Right, yeah, you want a guy that's going to show out on all aspects.
Patrick Mahomes is a cocky SOB too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
He's flamboyant. He's a little bit more humble. Growing up in professional baseball, he just knows that, hey man, you don't have to be cocky to be confident. Where some of these other guys that didn't have that benefit, they feel like, okay, I got to be cocky to show them I'm confident. But the real important part is going back to belief. It's your identity, which is your belief in yourself, and it's your confidence and your skills. You got to have both of those.
Absolutely.
Well, you know what? Some guys only have one, and they're not. Their identity's not there. That's the dude that, hey, he wins because he's got a bunch of good guys around him. Okay, and he's got good skills. But you know what? When he gets tested in the NFL against real people, real men, this guy, he shrivels up.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I completely agree. And I was going to say, talking on that same college quarterback spectrum, what are your thoughts? Because I need to hear them on Trevor Lawrence. I'm a big Clemson guy, but do you think he has the mentality, the mindset? I know he's coming in as one of the most promised prospects that NFL has really ever seen, since people are saying Peyton Manning. Is there truth behind that, or do you think he has that mindset to achieve in the NFL?
Okay, so if you're a Clemson fan, how many games has he lost?
Not many. I guess to LSU. One to LSU.
The dude's lost one game in his career.
Yeah. But
So here's the thing that I look for. If somebody has that identity, it's not something that shows up in week 8.
Yeah.
It shows up in the first practice. It shows up in the first game. Trevor Lawrence is a generational
talent. All right, good.
Okay, he's got the God-given body. He's got the skill set. He's got the arm talent. But more important than that, because Jamarcus Russell had that too.
Yep.
But Jamarcus Russell, I don't think he won but 3 games in his.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That was a disaster.
Right. Yeah, I was gonna say that. Talk about a nightmare. Right.
Raiders.
Yeah.
So Trevor Lawrence has it all. Even in the national championship game against LSU, he still was a champion. He
100%.
still was a winner. You know what? LSU's defensive scheme shut down their passing game. What did he do? He started running
the ball. Yeah, taking hits really, and we saw it against all.
He was taking what the defense was giving him.
Yep.
He wasn't quitting. He was fighting until the end. He did not walk off that field as a defeated guy.
No, not at all.
And so I guess on the same line, again, when we're talking about this God-given mindset, and you're talking about the identity, and obviously, the God-given talent and the identity, when it lines up, is something really incredibly special. Now, from the mindset and having that confidence and having that identity and knowing yourself, do you think that's something that you're born with, or is that something that over time you could learn, you could study, and improve that?
I think it's an evolution. I think some guys are born with more confidence, more natural, savviness, cockiness than others. But as you grow through your sport, through middle school, high school, college, so on and so forth, you have to get to a point where you go, I got it. I tell guys all the time, if if you get I ask kids, hey, if you get a 97% on any test in college, what grade do you get? A, B, C, D?
You get
A plus,
You
right?
get an A every time.
Yeah.
But if you believe in yourself 99.99%, you're gonna fail.
Yep.
Interesting.
I'll share a quick story with you. I went out to lunch about a month or so ago with a guy that was in Special Forces. And they started with 800 guys, got it down to 12. And this is how the workouts go. Hey guys, we need 25 guys to quit today. So we're gonna do, physical training until 25 guys quit. So when 24 guys have quit, they keep going until the next guy quits. Now we're down to 775. Give them a few days off, come back, we're gonna do 25 more. So I asked this gentleman, I said, hey, what separated, the 12 from the 13?
Oh yeah, I can. Yeah,
Think about this. There's
yeah,
13
right.
guys left. They're only going to take 12.
Yeah, you're one away, literally. Hold out.
Right away. That's the dude. And his response was, the 12 knew they were going to make it before they got there, regardless of the punishment, the training, regardless of how hard it was. They were going to make it. The 13th guy was 99.99999. And it just took him longer to find his weakness.
Yep, absolutely. No, I like that.
Yeah.
I think that kind of summarizes the, like you said, that idea. And going back to your question, which is, what's the difference between the 13 or the 12? And really, when you relate it to sports, that difference between the 13th guy and the 12th guy could be the difference in a Super Bowl team or Super Bowl leader versus someone that again is good enough but doesn't have exactly what it takes to get there. You may never get over that hump.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't want to offend anybody, but I got to throw it out there.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have a quarterback in Detroit, and we have a quarterback in Atlanta.
Yep.
Those guys are uber talented.
Yeah.
They're prototypical NFL, Pro Bowl quarterbacks. How many Super Bowl rings do those two guys have?
Zero.
And one of them was winning, 28-3?
Yep.
Yeah. One of them had it.
Against one of the greatest, mindset and guys that walk in the room, know when they're going to win.
That whole organization's mindset, really. The Patriots know.
So I'm going to put it out there that Matt Ryan and Matthew Stafford don't have it.
No,
I agree. I was going to say, I don't think, from what I've seen of Matt Ryan so far, I think, and with the team he's had too over years, you can't even say you haven't given the guy weapons. You get Ridley, you have Julio Jones, you get rid of Freeman. There's so many guys, and he couldn't do anything with it at all.
But it goes back to what you're saying. It's not the talent.
Right.
These guys have the talent to be not only an NFL quarterback, but high level every year in and year out.
He could have been a Hall of Famer.
They just don't have that little bit of, like you said, they're the difference right there between the 13th guy and the 12th guy.
I like that.
The 15th guy.
Exactly.
I like that.
It's crazy to think, because they've been in the league for so long, both of them, Stafford and Matt Ryan, and we've seen the successes, we've seen it, but like you said, it's the NFL is kind of like that whittling out process of the special forces. Each week goes on, you kind of know, okay, this team's probably done. Let's keep moving and keep cutting and keep cutting, and then by the end of the season, once you hit the playoffs, you're getting down to that 12th
Best
guy.
of the best,
Who's it going to be? And like you said, year in and year out, Stafford are on the fringe. They are that 13th guy. They just aren't there, from the head space side to be that 12th guy.
Yeah, Stafford's been on like a hamster wheel. He just can't succeed. Yeah.
Maybe true, may not be fair. Until a near career-ending injury happened to Alex Smith.
Yep.
He was the 13th guy too.
So I like it, and I'm going to take it a step further and propose this question to you. Now that he has gone through that grueling process, and like you said, this was not only a career-ending injury potentially, but this was a life-threatening. He had infections, he had multiple surgeries, and this was something.
Surgeries.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Crazy, yeah.
And for him to overcome that, and then finally, doctors were saying you may never walk again. You may have to amputate your leg. You may never walk again. All of a sudden, he's not only walking, but he's playing at the highest level there is against Darnold and one of the best defenses we have in the NFL today. So
think about that, getting sacked for your first time after that kind of injury by Aaron Donald.
So you're saying that Smith was at one point that 13th guy. Do you think going through this process has whittled it out, maybe gotten him over that hump and got him to maybe be that 12th guy?
he might be the first guy now.
Yeah.
He had to dig so deep. He had to look at who he is, what his identity was, how passionate was he about the game. That's number 2 in pro mindset. Number 3 is motivation. He had to reevaluate what his why was. Why did he even need to come back?
Yeah.
What did he have to prove? Did he need the cash? No.
Probably not.
No. He's made, crazy money.
Yep.
What happens is like if you look at gold and you look, what's the purest gold?
Purest gold, like a brick of gold? Are you talking me?
Like gold jewelry.
Oh,
24 karat. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. So you know the difference between 24 karat, 18 karat, and 12 karat?
Personally, I don't.
I don't. A couple carats.
All it is that the 24 karat gold has been in the fire longer,
Yep.
and it's been more purified. That's what happened to Alex Smith.
He's been through the fire.
Definitely been through the fire.
fire,
Probably
guys.
more than a couple times.
Yeah, I mean, he's been through a fire that most men on the planet will never even smell.
Yep. So speaking of going through the fire, and speaking of getting through a grueling injury such as the one that Alex Smith had, and in my opinion, speaking of the difference between a guy that can get you to the Super Bowl and win you a Super Bowl and potentially not, you got to talk about Dak Prescott. Obviously, it's terrible to see him go down with an injury, especially in a year that he was fighting for a contract and fighting for a long-term deal with the Cowboys. But all of a sudden, his feet are kind of to the fire here. Not to overextend
Literally.
the metaphor, but his feet are to the fire here because his career is on the line.
Yeah.
His life may not be threatened, and that's a good thing. But his career, I mean, this is going to be an injury that, yes, he should bounce back from. But what's your advice? I mean, going through it, having your experience, being an agent, going through this, studying the mindset of athletes, studying the mindset you have to have in order to get and perform at your best in whatever you're doing, not only in sports, but also in the business and personal side of things. What do you think Dak Prescott, what's your advice to Dak Prescott as he gets ready, to go through this recovery process?
Dak Prescott has already been through fires.
Yep.
He was through a fire in Mississippi State. They were a top program when he was there, and they hadn't been a top program forever. He comes in as a fourth round rookie with the Cowboys. Tony Romo hurts his back. He comes in and they go, 4-5-0?
Yep.
He was under a fire then because he had the pressure of knowing every single week that Jerry Jones was going to bring Romo back.
Yeah.
And then Jason Garrett finally came out and said, hey, regardless of when Romo's ready, Dak Prescott's our guy.
Yeah.
It's a lot to take on,
Now,
too.
those fires weren't as hot as the one he's going to go through now.
Right.
But Dak Prescott was born to deal with this adversity. He's one of the few people probably in the quarterback rooms around the NFL that could do this. Alex Smith has done it. I promise you, most guys, because Dak Prescott has already made more money than 99.9% of
100%.
Americans are going to make in their lifetime just in 5 months this year.
Yeah, and just being on the Cowboys in general with all the sponsorships, talk about commercials, everything.
Deals. I mean,
It's Jerry's world. Yeah, you're in a whole nother world.
So for Dak Prescott, the question is it about money? And the answer is obviously no. Even though everybody's concerned about him not getting this $500 million deal, he's going to get his money. He's already got money.
Mm-hmm.
The issue is, can he come back and be better than what he was? And I think the answer is going to be, of course, I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
None of us know. But I think it's going to be yes. But I think it's going to be 2 years.
Right.
I
So
don't
do
think
you,
he's going to play in 2021. I don't think he should play in 2021. I've had 2 clients that have had the similar type of injury.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very serious injury.
right. Could you see Dak Prescott go? I know it's premature because we don't know. Do you see him having a future with the Cowboys, or did this kind of leverage the Cowboys and what they're going to do going forward? Now that you have Andy Dalton, and you might make any move now afterwards, losing Dak Prescott, obviously.
Okay, so he's in the opposite situation he was when he was a rookie. He's now Tony Romo.
Yep.
Okay, and we'd already talked about offset that the NFL's about what have you done in the last month.
Mm-hmm.
So Andy Dalton takes these guys on a ride. They end up in the NFC Championship game. They maybe go to the Super Bowl. They win the Super Bowl. Do you think they're re-signing Dak Prescott?
No, you can't.
You can't. Andy Dalton now is America's team's quarterback.
Yeah, which is crazy to think his story.
Dak Prescott is unfortunately in a situation today that he can only focus on the things that he can control.
Mm-hmm.
And the more success the team has with Andy Dalton, the more likelihood he's not going to be a Cowboy.
Absolutely. And so on that same kind of conversation, as we're talking about Dak and we're talking about, this contract negotiation phase that he, again, what was going through all offseason, we thought a deal was going to get done, a deal didn't get done. What, as an agent, I'd be remiss to ask, where do you think this leaves Dak? Again, you're saying he's probably not going to play, and again, we don't know, but he's probably not going to play next season. He's definitely not playing for the remainder of this season.
Right.
Where do you think this leaves those contract negotiations with anyone? Do you think he lost all leverage whatsoever with the Cowboys? Like you said, we don't know what Andy Dalton's going to do. We don't know what the future is, and it is premature to have the conversation. But where do you think these conversations end up? You're saying he could go somewhere else. Do you think he even lost the leverage to have that long-term deal with a different team?
I do. Look at Cam Newton. Yep. Cam Newton had a minor injury. Cam Newton went 15-1 one year and won NFL MVP. And Cam Newton's won a national championship in junior college and in Auburn.
Yeah.
He's a proven winner. That's the blueprint, and that's kind of the path that Dak's probably on. You're going to see next offseason when teams are going to use their doctors as their defenders and basically say, hey, we're going to bring him in, check him out, see how he's progressing. And the doctors are going to err on the side of caution and say, hey, he's looking good, but he's not going to help you in 2021.
Right.
So what I see happening is somebody signing him, basically redshirting him, paying him $5 or $10 million, and letting him sit around so he can be in the culture, be in the locker room,
learn the system.
They're looking for him for 2022. And then what he needs to do is the same thing Cam did. Sign a 1-year deal, suck it. He's got money.
Right. That was my next question. I'm saying you have to have almost the Cam Newton mindset that you can't go sign this massive contract that you wanted to sign. And times obviously are changing. So now you kind of have to accept just proving yourself, really, because that's what Cam Newton's doing. He has a bunch of incentives in his contract. Dak's going to have to do the same thing.
So think about this. If you sign a 1-year deal as a quarterback like Dak, and you have two things in place. One is a no franchise tag clause.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And two is that, God, slipped my mind what the hell the other one was. Basically, protection that they can't keep you around.
Yep.
Right.
That you get to go to free agency after 1 year, because if you go ball out, like if Cam Newton balls out in New England, they're going to re-sign him.
Yeah, of course, absolutely.
Right? But hey, you know what? If you got as a player, you have to exercise the leverage you have. Dak still has leverage.
Yep.
He has leverage for freedom of movement. He doesn't have leverage for getting a $500 million deal.
Definitely.
So on those $500 million deal, and obviously the deal that Dak was looking for that long-term deal. One of the most asked questions that we got from Pick Vault Nation to ask your way is about these long-term contracts that are going on in the NFL. Obviously, we've seen it with Patrick Mahomes extending his contract to unbelievable lengths, and then obviously we saw it again with Deshaun Watson as the Texans solidify that he'll be a quarterback there for a long time. And again, another quarterback coming off
an injury. That's what I was going to say. That's even riskier.
Then signing a long-term deal. What do you think the future is of these long-term deals? And I guess I'm going to take it a step further and ask, what do you think the impact is on not only Dak Prescott, but on the NFL in general? Are players going to demand these long-term deals moving forward? Do you think it's good for the NFL, bad for the NFL? What's your thoughts as an agent and your experience being in the industry on these long-term deals?
Well, you guys can answer this question. It might take you a while to think about it, but
Absolutely.
What's the most important position on a football team?
The quarterback.
And the ones that have him have a chance to go to the Super Bowl and win. The guys that don't. And GMs and head coaches openly talk about the issue of until we get a franchise quarterback, we don't have any job security.
Absolutely.
And if you look at the organizations that have had stability, they all have that franchise type quarterback. So there's been rumblings over the years, especially the last 5 or 10 years, about doing a quarterback cap.
Yep.
Okay, we're going to treat these guys differently. We got 52 guys under one budget. We have one guy, one position under a different budget.
Yep.
So these long-term deals effectively create a quarterback cap.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Okay, because if we go back to the Minnesota Vikings model and Kirk Cousins, and you give a guy, $84 million fully guaranteed on a short-term deal, kills your cap.
Right. Do you think that Kirk Cousins is even deservable for that? Because then they look back at it. I mean, you go years down the line and it might not pan out. So do you put your organization in even more of a hole after thinking he was your franchise quarterback and then finding out he's not? So you kind of just wasted all that time because Kirk Cousins can't win a big game either.
I think there's multiple issues there. One is that Kirk Cousins has shown who he is. And he's more like Matthew Stafford.
Yep.
Right.
The 13th guy.
Yeah.
Going back to
exactly.
the
Yeah.
previous.
He's a hell of a quarterback.
Absolutely.
Hell of a quarterback.
Definitely.
He's not going to win championships.
Right. Which is unfortunate.
But I think going back to the quarterback cap discussion, if the Chiefs or the Texans would have given their quarterbacks 4-year extensions for $50 million a year, would have crippled their caps. Patrick Mahomes was paid less money than Jared Goff,
Yeah, that's insane.
Carson Wentz, over the first 3 or 4 years of the deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's how you do that. If you want to keep a championship roster intact, you do the quarterback cap version of a long-term deal. It's not going to be what it's going to be.
Yeah. No, I agree. A lot of it's not guaranteed, right? I mean,
if Mahomes wins a couple more Super Bowls or Deshaun Watson wins a couple Super Bowls, that thing's going to be torn up and redone.
Right. It's like won't even matter.
And if they don't perform, hey, these are one-way deals, man.
Yeah, you kind
Players
of.
don't get to cut them up. Teams do.
absolutely. And on that same line, the teams, I think one thing, especially in negotiating contracts, and you know this well, a lot more than
us.
I
Yeah.
do. But the teams have all the information. I mean, they know the kind of deals that they're going to be cutting from the broadcast perspective and what kind of, television deals they have and advertising deals they have. So they know they have a trajectory of where they're going financially. Whereas a player kind of has to, especially with a long-term deal, like you said, the Chiefs is a perfect example. By the time that Mahomes is at the end of his contract, I mean, that may be a low-end deal for all we know, unless there is a cap, like you said, on the quarterback position. Unless they put a cap on the quarterback position. You're talking about if the NFL continues to get more revenue year in and year out and teams start getting bigger deals, I mean, the cap is just going to keep going up and up and
Everything's going to increase, and then you're going to start getting other players feisty about it. No, you're good. I would continue. I was just saying that you have a cap on quarterbacks. Everyone looks at the quarterback, like Mahomes, for instance. He actually took less money so that I think it was Travis Kelce, so they could sign him to more money. They're like, go get that deal done. So I think it's interesting too how Patrick Mahomes kind of knows that he needs other weapons, and you don't really see that from many quarterbacks either.
Well, if Kansas City has a chance to have sustainable success because of signing, Kelce, Chris Jones, they've got a bevy of receivers they're going to want to keep. So here's the thing I can tell you is that, it's almost like the presidential debates right now.
Yep.
People are evaluating what they're saying and what they're not saying. Well, how does that apply to the NFL? How that applies to the NFL is a contract is just as important for what it says as it doesn't say.
Yep.
So what does Patrick Mahomes' deal not say that really is important? Well, I can tell you right now, from my perspective, it's screaming that this is a 4-year deal, we're going to revisit it. He's going to redo his deal 3 or 4 times in this 10-year span.
Right.
We just had to get something on the books that looked really impressive, that was really rewarding for him, enough guarantee on the table that makes him happy but doesn't scare the Chiefs away if he ends up going down the tubes, going in the tank like some guys have a tendency to do.
Yeah.
And we're going to revisit this thing. And if Andy Reid's gone, we've got a different scheme, a different level of success on the field, hey, that deal may go away.
Right.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
You know, if Eric Bieniemy takes a head coaching job this offseason, and for some reason the new guy comes in and it's not a good fit, and the Chiefs are kind of out of sorts, and their offense is not jamming like it was, and Mahomes doesn't look the same, don't think for a second he's going to get that 503.
Right. I didn't even really think about that, to be honest, because it's really you don't really know. It's unknown. It's completely unknown if the Chiefs have a dynasty or not. You really don't know.
Well, like you said, a lot of the stuff is about the things that aren't said, and that goes with the contracts. Obviously, there's a lot that isn't said, that isn't in the news headlines that you're reading when you see he signs a big deal. There's a lot that isn't said, and I think that kind of carries over into everything, especially as you're talking about the quarterback position and what's going to happen moving forward. So yeah, I mean, as we're talking about all these deals that are going on, all the future deals that will occur, do you think this deal specifically set a precedent for somebody with the talent and with the skill and with the savviness
ability
that Mahomes has? I don't know if we're going to see someone exactly with the same tools as Mahomes. Do you think it set a precedent though for that long-term deal? Because not far after we see the deal from Watson, and the conversation was at least started about the Dak Prescott deal. Do you think this Mahomes deal will be a good thing
effect
for the NFL or a bad thing for the NFL?
I think it's a good thing because it does create that quarterback cap. It does treat the quarterbacks a little bit differently. It does create stability in the organization. It creates predictability in your budgeting for your future cap. Okay, and of course you can always do redos, renegotiations where you substitute cash to reduce your cap. The Chiefs could do that in years 6, 7, 8, 9, and that's what the best teams do. If you look at, if anybody would analyze what Tom Brady did with New England, they did things like that. They didn't do the Matthew Stafford deal.
Yep.
They didn't do the Matt Ryan deal. Those are the typical deals.
Right. Look how that worked out. Yeah.
And those guys that can't get those teams haven't been able to put weapons around their quarterback and guys on the other side of the ball.
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
so as a Chiefs fan, on the same token, as a Chiefs fan, are you excited about? You have to be excited about signing Mahomes to a long-term deal, but are you excited about all of the other things that are going on in that organization? Yes, you go out and sign Le'Veon Bell. Yes, you go out and you extend Reed's contract, and all of a sudden you get Kelsey to re-sign, and you're looking at a setup again for that potential dynasty. I know you just mentioned the Patriots, and it's obviously going to be a competitive AFC division moving forward this year into the future.
Look out for the Ravens, correct?
But what are your thoughts as as a Kansas City Chiefs fan, as the current state of your team and the organization that you follow?
Well, not even as a fan, just from a perspective of how do you try to create sustained success? And the only way you can do that is if it's about we and not me. And from an agent perspective, players are about me. They got to get theirs. And that's what we tell them. Let's go get your money, man.
Yeah.
Let's take care of you. You can't worry about the team. Let's take care of you. They're not going to, they've never done this in the NFL that I'm aware of. A dude gets cut, and the guys in the locker room pass a hat, and everybody contributes some cash to help him transition to the real world.
Right.
Doesn't happen.
No.
Okay? So because of that, guys got to get theirs. Okay? Well, Kansas City, similar to what New England's done in the last 20 years, is developing a culture. Andy Reid's developing a culture that it's about we. And Le'Veon going there is a perfect example. He's going there because he wants to hold a Lombardi trophy.
Right.
Yep.
And
he wants to be a part of a winner. He wants a positive mojo he wants a positive narrative in the media about him.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Negative, since he had a contentious negotiation with the Steelers and then foolishly sat out for a year.
Yeah, and that's a guy that I actually highlight as someone that has the talent. Obviously, we saw it in Pittsburgh. He has the talent, but I do think that whole situation and that divorce in Pittsburgh carried over into, I know we keep referring back to this mindset, but carried over, and it does show on the field. Obviously, he's not the same player, hasn't been the same player, and in my opinion, you're going into a situation in New York and in the Jets, which for somebody that had so much negative media publicity going into that deal, into that situation in New York, it was set up for failure from the start, and so I'm hoping, and I guess I'll propose the question your way. I'm hoping that he could have it in that positive environment, like you're saying. I would
hope so.
In the we mentality, not the me mentality, because he's a player that, frankly, whether it's right or wrong, whether it's the truth or not, the media has kind of made him, seem like a me guy, not a we guy. Well, right. And so in that situation now, in a we situation, what are your thoughts with Le'Veon Bell and how he's going to maybe transform his career back to where he once was?
Well, Matt, I'll echo your comments. When he had those contract negotiations in Pittsburgh, it was about me.
Right.
And he wanted money commensurate with, I'm going to bring the championship to the organization. It wasn't about Roethlisberger or anybody else. And then when he goes to the Jets, they're the team that was willing to pay him. So he's putting out there, it's about me.
Yeah.
I can bring it. I can bring a championship, put the team on my shoulders. By him going to Kansas City, and it wouldn't necessarily just have to be in Kansas City, it could have been a bunch of other teams. Yeah. He's basically saying, I want to be a part of a team. I want to fit in. He's not ever going to make in his career what Patrick Mahomes signed for, right? And there's a lot of dudes that are making a lot of money and a few that are going to make a lot of money that haven't been paid yet. He's got to understand how he fits in. He's not going to start next week when he's eligible to play the game. No,
Edwards of layers,
a role player.
Yeah, and he's got to get used to that.
Here's what's going to happen to potentially to Le'Veon. He's going to excel in his role. He's going to go back to what he was in a role. Yeah. Because you got to remember, in Pittsburgh,
he wasn't number one.
Had a role.
Yeah. He wasn't number one, especially, and the good thing about Pittsburgh and having the Killer Bees, as they called them, when they were all over there in Pittsburgh together, what was the fact that there was so many weapons, and even Juju looked better.
Because of AB.
Because he had AB. And I think that kind of is a perfect metaphor, again, to the whole we mindset versus me mindset. The Pittsburgh Steelers were at an all-time great, in my opinion, when they all were playing at their like you said, playing their role. And I think a lot of teams, and the Patriots have been known to do this with guys that don't have uber talent, and somehow Bill Belichick, whether it's his magic wand or whatever it is, gets these players in the right frame of mind.
They buy into the system.
To buy into the system. And in previous podcasts, I've really broken down how I personally believe, and it's just a personal thing, that on any given Sunday, anyone can win the NFL, but I will always go with, personally, the team that has the better quarterback in the better system and the better coach. I think the perfect example, and I keep going back to it, and I kind of want to get your take on it as an NFL guy and someone that has so much experience in it. Ryan Fitzpatrick is a guy that people are, again, every year there's a little bit of hype around him, the Fitzmagic and everything going on. I keep saying that if he was put into a system kind of that embodies the we mindset, like you're talking about, and a guy that has the talent, in my opinion, we've seen it. He has these little bursts here and there where he puts up great numbers, but he's never there for a long-term deal. He's always that interim guy where he comes in and he's there for a year. And if your team signs, I always say it, if your team signs Fitzpatrick, you're out of the conversation really for that year. They bring him in almost like a substitute teacher. They bring him in, and I think this season in Miami, it was perfect because you don't want to put a guy out there like Tua who did have an injury at Alabama. You don't want to put him in there for a chance to get further injured when he doesn't know the system. And again, it goes back to where we started this whole conversation with coaching, and you got to give the coach time to really implement the system. So a guy like Fitzpatrick, where do you think, do you think he's a guy that just maybe didn't get dealt the right cards, and a guy that in the right system could be and could excel?
No question about it. I mean, this guy did not play Power 5, comes out of Harvard. The thing about Fitzpatrick that hurts him is he doesn't have the God-given pizzazz and arm talent that some of the guys do.
It's not natural, yeah.
And so you were talking about the Steelers, so I'm gonna go way, way back to the Steelers.
Absolutely.
Terry Bradshaw and Ryan Fitzpatrick, same guy.
Yep.
Never really compare that, yeah.
Yards Bradshaw threw for every year?
No.
No, yeah, I can say a lot.
Less than 2,000.
Oh, no, really? Dang.
You had the two receivers, but they didn't throw unless they had to. He was a winner. He was a leader. He was clutch when he needed to be clutch.
Right. Game manager, yeah.
Carry that team. You got to remember, they had the steel curtain.
Yep.
Okay? So, today, unfortunately, in the NFL, we want a quarterback that can do it all.
Yep.
He can win under any circumstances. Poor offensive line, horrible defense, third and 17, game on the line, he can make the throw.
Yeah, Patrick Mahomes, yeah.
Like Mahomes. Mahomes is one of a kind. I feel like Fitzpatrick could win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, if you put him in the right system, like imagine if he was on the Falcons for the past however many years. You never know.
I take it a step further, and I'm not going to say he would have had. He definitely wouldn't have had the same successes that Brady had. But I always go back to the fact that I think the best system in the NFL, and this is not, again, it's not even a personal opinion at this point. It's kind of become a fact that people across the board kind of agree upon. The best system in the NFL has been over the past 20 years what they've done and what Bill Belichick has been able to do in New England. And I think if you had a guy like Fitzpatrick buy into that system, he has the God-given talent. And frankly, I think he may even have that moxie and that confidence that we were talking about earlier. And that's why people love him. But I don't know. I think, again, it's been a great conversation about all of these different players and really talking about what's the status of the NFL, because we're in a weird time in the NFL where everyone, like you said, is going back to, we want a guy that could do everything. We want a guy that could do everything. And the interesting part about that to me is we want a guy that can do everything, but the guy that can, in Patrick Mahomes, is willing to adopt that we mentality. So everyone's striving for that Patrick Mahomes guy. Everyone wants him, right? Everyone wants somebody like that, and that's what I think the Texans have done. They've wanted to recreate Patrick Mahomes 2.0 in Deshaun Watson.
You're going to have to give him some weapons.
But it's more than what Mahomes is able to do. And I think it kind of goes back to the argument that people made for years. Is it Brady? Is it Belichick? And in that system in Kansas City, whether you like him or not, Andy Reid has got that whole team bought in. And everyone's buying into the we mentality. And the fact of the matter is you have the greatest player on the planet right today willing to buy into it. I think it's amazing to watch.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, how many head coaches sit down with their quarterback after every series and kind of review just what happened?
Yeah.
Here's how it typically works. It happens this way in the family dynamics. It also happens in the team dynamics. A guy makes it, and the family puts him on a pedestal.
Yep.
So now the father treats the son like he's the patriarch of the family.
Right.
And then in the NFL, you do something, and then all of a sudden the coach, you become untouchable.
Mm-hmm.
And the coaches stop coaching. They put you up on a pedestal. Andy Reid is coaching Patrick Mahomes every day, every game. Patrick Mahomes is receiving that coaching. That's what I see missing. You know, how often do you see like certain people, they just, the quarterback, he's got too much street cred.
Yep.
And he throws a pick, does something stupid, and nobody even talks to him.
Talks to him, yeah. Because you can't. It's almost like he's a firecracker. You don't even want to go near him because you know what's going to happen. It's kind of the opposite. Lamar Jackson and Harbaugh, I think, are a good example of that too. Like they look like they're best friends on the bench, and he's trying to coach Lamar in every way possible. Whether, like you said, it's off the field, on the field. He's probably doing more for him than a lot of people think. So yeah, I definitely think that has a major role in everything as well.
Absolutely. All right. Well, it like I said, it's been an absolutely amazing having you come on, awesome. And it's something that we've been excited about for a while, and we're going to have you come back if it's something that you're interested in doing moving forward, because again, you provide a unique perspective, especially the mindset, and I love it, especially here at the Pick Vault. We really try to break it down a little bit further and go that extra step, and I think Pro Mindset Podcast, if you guys haven't checked it out, you have to check it out, because he has guests on all the time that break down every element, and it's not just here talking. It doesn't just come into effect in sports. It doesn't just come to effect in the NFL. There's lessons to be learned, especially on Pro Mindset podcast, that actually, we see in our real everyday life, whether you're in the business world, whether you're, religious,
anywhere really,
and you're trying to, bring awareness to a cause. Whatever it is that you do, Pro Mindset Podcast gets you in that frame and teaches you lessons as to get where you need to be, especially as we've seen competitive nature in sports. There's a competitive nature in the real world, and that I think a lot of the stuff translates that we're talking about today and that you talk about on your show. So it's amazing to have you on. And again, this is Craig Domann from Pro Mindset Podcast.
Hey guys, I appreciate you having me on today. I'd love to be on again and talk a little bit more about the other elements of Pro Mindset. I just want to share one thing, and this is especially relevant to young guys that like to play video games.
Yep.
Okay, so Pro Mindset has 7 things. I'm just going to give you this quick summary.
Yes.
Perfect. Go for it.
7 elements. And I'm going to compare it to 2 analogies. One is you invest in 7 stocks. So I'm going to ask both you guys this question. If you invested in 7 stocks and your goal was to get double-digit returns and one of your stocks, one of your companies went bankrupt, is it possible that you could still get double-digit
Correct.
returns?
Yes.
Definitely.
No question. You hit a home run, makes 400%, you might get 35-40% return.
Yep.
With Pro Mindset, there's 7 things, and it's very similar to playing video games. Okay, so to play video games, you need electricity, you need Wi-Fi, you need a box, you need software, you need a monitor, and you need a controller. Yep. Have you ever in your life wanted to play video games, couldn't find the controller, and were you able to play?
No.
No, you're looking under the couch, looking at the pillows, yelling at your friends, trying to figure out where in the hell the controller is.
We go through it every day. Yeah, we do.
Pro Mindset Podcast with our seven things, the Pro Mindset, 7 elements, is like playing video games. If you're missing one, it's just a matter of time before you have an epic failure in your career.
Yep.
You gotta have them all. And when you get low on something, you better know where the gas station is to go fill up in that area. And so for my guys that I've had over the years that, played 10 years and weren't supposed to play 10 minutes, they had them all. And so for those guys out there that want to learn more about it, go to Pro Mindset Podcast.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
And again, I have seen it firsthand. We watched
Me
it.
as well,
Dan and I were watching it, and it is amazing to see. And again, I think you summarized it perfectly. It does capture all of the elements that you need in order to be your very best. And again, when you're performing at your best, I think people out there undercut themselves. But when you're performing at your best, you can do some extraordinary things. And I think that's one thing that you highlight, throughout everything. Everyone has the capability. It's all about fine tuning, like you said, those seven important
Identity, belief, everything.
All of the 7 elements. And when you have them all in alignment, you're talking about something extraordinary, special. So again, thank you for having, for coming on, and we're excited to have you on in the future.
We look forward to
Hey,
it.
guys.
Thank you.
You
too.
You as well.
Oops, I just ended it.
Should we call him back?
You can call.
Oh, shit.
Just call it. I recorded. I started recording late.
What's up?
I started recording late.
On what, that or the film? Sorry, we'll have a little audio in the beginning.
Yeah, I'll figure something out.
Yeah.
It was under.